Question for you. Ever feel overwhelmed when trying to plan a meeting? Not exactly sure what to do to make it successful? Worry that your meeting won't end with concrete results and leave your team wondering, so what was the point of that meeting? Now what? Meetings end with better results and become much easier to lead if you prepare properly. And setting the right stage for a collaborative problem solving meeting will help you be seen as a leader people trust. So in this video, we are going to go over exactly what you need to prepare for your meeting so you feel confident about its outcome. And I want you to have a little bit of a mantra, a little bit of a mindset for this video. And this is from Abraham Lincoln, who once said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe." So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to help you have a very sharp axe so that it's much easier to get the results you want and feel confident when leading the collaborative problem solving meeting. So just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Michael Vargas. I am the founder of Lead by Impact. I have a master's degree in clinical psychology, and I've been working with teams to help them collaboratively problem solve for over 12 years. I've worked with a variety of organizations from all different sectors. So you can see nonprofit, government, tech, school districts, manufacturing, and so on. So what I'm going to teach you works in all types of industries. Okay, one thing that I've learned over the years is when leading collaborative problem-solving meetings, the more I invest in preparation, the smoother the meetings run and the outcomes are much more concrete. The better I plan, the less I actually have to do and the better results I get. So let's get you feeling confident and prepared for your next meeting. There are two things that are the most important parts when preparing for a collaborative problem-solving meeting. These things are very simple, but they are absolutely necessary. And I want you to think about a race. So we're going to use the metaphor of a race here. There are two most important parts that inform how the whole entire race goes. And that's when it starts and when it ends. So the two most important parts of a meeting that you need to prepare for are, why are we having this meeting, right? Even if your boss says we need to have this meeting, get clarity on the reasoning why. What is causing us to have this meeting? We need to have real good clarity so that we can then hit on the second part, which is, what is the objective or outcome of this meeting? What do we want to have differently? What resources or knowledge should be different? How should we be different? What is different after this meeting, right? So those are the two places. Why are we having this meeting? And then that helps inform the objective and the outcome. So just wanted to give you a few examples of what outcomes can look like when you're trying to collaboratively problem solve. And these are just a couple examples. There's so many more outcomes out there, but just to hit on a few is getting aligned on the main challenge, right? Ending the meeting with clarity on which challenge we are going to focus on, which is, what challenge are we saying yes to work on? And here are the ones that we're saying no, that we're not going to work on, even though these are ones that we need to work on at some point, just not yet. Get everyone up to date about the new project. So you share about the new project, maybe you have a Q&A session just to get people a sense of what this new project is, what direction we're going, the reason we're having it, giving people context about this new project. A decision made of how we will move forward. So if we're going to move forward with anything in particular, we make sure by the end of the meeting, we have a decision of how to do that. Clear action steps. So I think this is probably one of the most helpful things to end a meeting with. Clear action steps of what are we now going to do and who's responsible for what by when. Very clear action steps. A Q&A session. So having people ask a bunch of questions about something that they feel really unsure about, or maybe there was a thing that was challenging and people have a lot of questions. So having a Q&A session just to get that clarity. And brainstorming ideas. So, okay, folks, by the end of this meeting, we are going to end with 100 ideas. You don't necessarily have to make a decision at this meeting, but we're just saying this meeting, we want to end with ideas. So these are examples of outcomes, right? A variety of outcomes that could happen. And there's so many more, but I wanted to give you a little sample of what that could look like. Now, one of the things I want you to be mindful of, especially when you're doing a lot of collaborative problem solving, is what's called the overconfidence bias. It's very easy to overestimate, right? We overestimate our ability to handle multiple things at once and do them well. So what happens is we try to, what I call kind of like goal stuff, like 3 or 4 or 5 different outcomes from the meeting itself. And we go an inch wide, a mile wide, but an inch deep, right? We don't really get to the core. We don't really nail those things where people feel confident about it because we're trying to do multiple things at once. So if you're having a meeting, 1 to 2 outcomes max, so that people can really get the root of it and make sure that there's clarity, alignment, and everything moving forward. So don't try to stuff it with as much as you can. Be clear what's the most important thing that us as a group of people need to end with, and let's say no to everything else for now. Overconfidence bias, it's a pain. The next couple of important things to figure out is, so who are the stakeholders, right? Who are the people that are going to be joining this? And we want to think about those people in particular. This is also really helpful if you feel challenged with getting people to join your collaborative problem-solving meetings. The more we can kind of think about these people, the easier it'll be for us to have a meeting that really is impactful and one that people will engage with and one people will feel good when they leave. So here's a couple of things to think about when you're thinking about these stakeholders. So first part, what kind of people are they, right? So if we're going to have a meeting with salespeople, it's going to be very different than a meeting with engineers, right? So think about who is going to be there. And then once you know what kind of people are going to be there, this kind of informs the next few questions. How will they learn and engage most effectively? So going back to the example, salespeople would probably prefer stories. Engineers might like a spreadsheet, right? So giving them how they would learn most effectively with the way that they work, right? So salespeople versus engineers, they're going to learn differently. So we want to learn, and how do we engage them, these people who are coming, the most effectively? What are their goals and how will this benefit, right? So engineers, they want to create amazing products. Salespeople, they want to make more money. So we want to take in their goals and think about, how does this meeting benefit them? What will this do for them in particular? Get as clear as you can about how this helps them with their goals, how this helps them move forward with whatever they're moving forward with. And then the last piece here, pretty simple, but what are their constraints, right? What are the challenges that they might have? Salespeople, maybe they're over swamped and they have so many clients that they have to talk to. So maybe they don't have a lot of time. Engineers, they're very particular maybe about how they want to do something. So it might be a little bit difficult to have them think differently. Or what are their constraints in the business, right? So think about, what are the things that are constraining them, that are challenges, that are their obstacles, and how could you potentially get around those, move through them, and maybe even this meeting help with those constraints, right? So if you have these 4 questions in mind when you're bringing in stakeholders, when you're thinking about your collaborative problem-solving meeting, it's going to have a much greater impact, and people are going to feel more excited to join, and they're going to feel like it was a much better use of their time after the fact as well. So that's a really important thing to kind of chew on before you set up your collaborative problem-solving meeting. A couple other parts to figure out that you really want nailed in before this meeting. So what kind of meeting should it be? Is it going to be a brainstorming? Are we going to be, is it going to be a panel conversation? Is it going to be a group discussion? Are we going to go over slides and then answer questions? Just think about what kind of meeting it should be. How much time will you have? Is it a 1 hour, a 2 hour, a half day, a full day meeting? So really trying to think about, okay, what's the best amount of time for something like this, depending on the outcomes that we have. And then how will you design the meeting? So we're going to do a whole separate video on just designing the meeting, because that's a big old chunk. There's a lot of different ways to do that. So we'll dive more into that in another video. And what is going to be the biggest challenges in the meeting? Are people going to be very quiet in the meeting? It'll be hard to get them engaged. Are there going to be a couple of loudmouths, extroverts that take up all this space? Are people going to come in with no sense of context and be really confused about what we're actually talking about? Right? So what are the biggest challenges that'll happen in the meeting? And try to think of how you can prepare for those and move around those or even use those to your advantage. Okay, so planning that out beforehand. So doing these things will give you a very sharp axe. It'll allow you to feel a lot more prepared for your meeting when you get clear on these things. And it'll be a lot easier to lead, and you will end with much better results. Again, the more that I do this, the easier it is for me to be hands off and the better results that I get with all these companies that I work with. So in summary, what we're looking at here is the why and the outcome of the meeting, right? The start of the race, the end of the race. Think about the participants and how to make sure that they are well supported. Who are these people? What are their goals? How might they learn? What are their obstacles? Right? Getting a sense of that and trying to create and craft your meeting to help support that. And other factors, right? Time, design, big obstacles that might get in the way. These things will help you feel a lot more solid, a lot more confident going into a meeting. And so now, before you end this video, take a moment and reflect on how do you currently normally prepare for your meetings, right? So what do you currently do? And then what's one thing, just one thing at least, you'll do differently to feel better prepared for your collaborative problem-solving meetings? Maybe think more about who might show up and what their learning style is, or maybe try to time out your meetings a little bit better, right? What's just one thing that you're willing to try, right? See it as an experiment. Try it for a couple meetings and see how your meetings change. Give it a shot. And if you're up for it, please share your reflections in the comments underneath the video. We would love to hear a little bit more about what you want to try doing differently. And one last thing. So we have a free training, and this is about, we talked about earlier, the overconfidence bias. Well, we have a free training on the top 5 group biases that stop your team from collaboratively problem solving. These biases are hidden, they're very quiet, they're very difficult to see, but once you learn about them, they're a lot easier to recognize because these things are very quiet but have a huge impact on whether a team can collaboratively problem solve well or not, okay? And we will also show you what you can do about them. So it'll be in the description below. Click the link if you want this free training. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you got at least one little nugget, one little thing that you're willing to do differently. Thank you so much and have a great day.